She stumbled through the burning Wyoming dust like a shadow made of wounds and exhaustion. The summer heat shimmered around her, warping the air until the land itself seemed to breathe. A filthy cloth, more rag than garment, was wrapped tight around her body, and she clutched it with both hands as if it were the only thing still holding her together. Her bare feet dragged through the dry earth. Thin lines of blood slipped down her legs, drying before they reached her ankles. She did not cry. She had no tears left. By the time she reached the weathered fence line of Walker Ranch, her knees buckled. The cloth slipped from her shoulder, and she gasped, clawing it back against her chest. Her breath came in shallow, broken bursts. She forced herself upright again, swaying like a ghost in the heat haze, refusing to fall. Elias Walker had just returned from the south pasture when he saw her. At first, he thought she was a mirage. Heat had played tricks on him before. But mirages didn't bleed. Mirages didn't flinch when the wind touched them. And mirages didn't look at a man the way she looked at him now, terrified, hollow, desperate. She couldn't have been more than 22. Dust stuck to the sweat on her face. Bruises marked her arms and collarbone. The cloth she wore looked like a torn bedsheet, stained with dirt and old blood, barely covering her. She trembled violently, her body near collapse. He approached slowly. His boots crunched over the dry grass, and she flinched so fast he stopped mid-step. Her fingers tightened on the cloth until the knuckles turned bone white. "Please," she rasped. Her voice cracked like old wood under an axe. "Do not, take the cloth off." It wasn't a scream. Not even a whisper. It was the smallest plea a human could make, crafted from exhaustion and terror. Elias froze. Even the horse behind him went still. He understood then, that cloth wasn't just modesty. It was the last piece of herself she still possessed. Her last defense. Something inside his chest twisted sharply. Anger at whoever had done this. Fear for her. Frustration at his own helplessness. All of it made his heart pound painfully. He shrugged off his own shirt and held it out with unsteady hands. "You're safe here," he managed to say. It was all he could offer. But as he stepped closer, another realization hit him like a cold wind: this girl wasn't running from danger. Danger was still coming. And from the way she kept looking over her shoulder, danger wasn't far. He did not ask another question. He simply wrapped his shirt around her shoulders and lifted her into his arms when her legs finally quit. She weighed almost nothing. Too little. He felt more bone than flesh, and that scared him even more than the panic in her eyes. Inside the ranch house, he set her gently on the old couch near the window. She curled into his shirt, gripping it tight. Her breathing remained uneven, shuddering like every breath cost her something she didn't have much of left. Elias heated water and found old bundles of crushed herbs his mother had left behind. He knelt in front of her, sliding the bowl and cup onto the table. She didn't move except to pull the shirt tighter, as if the whole world still wanted to take something from her. Elias kept his eyes on her face, never her bruises, never the dried blood, just her. "You can rest here," he said quietly. "No one comes through that door unless I say so." She lifted her gaze slowly. Her eyes held doubt, exhaustion, and the smallest flicker of hope fighting to survive. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. Why did you help me?" He exhaled slowly. "Guess you needed someone. Guess I was the fool standing close enough to do something." A sound escaped her, half laugh, half sob, but it faded almost as soon as it appeared. He handed her the tin cup of warm water. Her hands shook so violently he had to steady the cup with his own. For the first time since she'd stepped onto his land, she drank without fear. As the sun dropped behind the distant hills, she lay back on the couch wrapped in his shirt. Sleep tugged at her, but before she slipped under, her voice rose again, soft and terrified. "If they find me here, they will not stop." Elias felt the air tighten. He had been waiting for that. Who were they? He asked. She didn't answer right away. She sat up slowly and stared at the floor, her fingers twisting the fabric of his shirt. They worked for a ranch near Cheyenne, she said. A big one. Too many men. Too few laws. She swallowed hard. I stepped off the train thinking I had a job waiting. Cleaning rooms. Serving meals. Something simple. But they took me from the station. Locked me in a room. I never saw the man who paid for me, only heard him through the door. Elias clenched his jaw. He had worked near Cheyenne once. He knew the kind of men she meant, men with money, cruelty, and a reach that stretched into every saloon and back alley. Men who carved their power into the world with violence. How many? He asked. Too many, she whispered. And their boss, he's the one they fear. They say if he loses something, he sends his riders until they bring it back. No matter the cost. Elias rubbed a hand over his face. He didn't need more details. He already knew the story, he'd heard it a dozen times living near Cheyenne, though never from someone who survived long enough to tell it. The ranch stayed quiet for almost 2 days. Too quiet. Even the wind felt like it was holding its breath. On the second afternoon, he felt something shift in the air. A strange yellow tint colored the sky, storm-like without a storm. The air sat heavy and still. Elias walked out to check the horses, but his eyes kept tracking the horizon. At first, he thought it was dust rising from a distant gust. But dust didn't move that steady. 3 riders approached. No hurry. No hesitation. The kind of men who didn't need to rush to get what they came for. Inside the house, the girl stiffened. She stepped toward the door, wrapping his shirt around her like armor. They found me, she whispered. I know those horses. I know that walk. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. Stay behind me. No matter what. The riders entered the yard, silent as wolves. The lead man dismounted and dusted off his coat with slow, practiced arrogance, the kind of arrogance money buys and cruelty protects. His eyes swept over Elias with an expression that expected obedience. We're looking for a girl, he said. Ran off with something that belongs to our boss. Anyone pass through here? Elias didn't blink. Not a soul. The man smiled without warmth. Mind if we take a look inside? The girl trembled behind Elias. Her breath hitched. She knew, if they stepped inside, everything ended. The lead rider reached for the door. And Elias's voice cut through the yard like a blade. I wouldn't. His hand rested lightly on his colt. Not a threat. A promise. The rider froze. Something changed in the men's eyes. They saw a man who had buried loved ones and carried the weight of it. A man who had stood against storms no human should survive. A man who refused to lose another soul. After a long moment, the rider lowered his hand. We'll report you, he spat. Lol, come. Elias didn't flinch. Then let it come. The riders turned and rode off, leaving only dust swirling in their wake. The girl sagged against the doorframe, her shoulders loosening for the first time in days. When she looked at Elias, her voice was barely a murmur. Why did you help me, even when danger came to your door? Elias looked at her with a tired, worn kindness. Because nobody deserves to walk alone in this world. For the first time in months, she believed someone truly meant it. And maybe that was the lesson, courage doesn't always come with bullets or fists. Sometimes it comes in the form of a man willing to stand at a door and refuse to move. Now tell me, if you were standing where Elias stood that evening, would you have opened the door, or blocked it with your life?